Partial funding for this program has been provided by a Pennsylvania Legislative Initiative grant.
Spirit beings are often as interested in establishing relationships with us as we are with them. They can serve many functions and take many forms. They can inspire creativity, help open us to abundance, provide insight and information, protect, or simply serve as companions. We can all benefit from contact with them and often do so without even realizing it.
I love it here. I think it's very peaceful. 24 years ago was the first time I came, and I closed my eyes, leaned against a tree, and I saw walking before me this elegant Indian, an Indian, not an American Indian. And he looked at me and he just winked, and it was the cutest thing, and I was always wondering what, I could still see it, what the significance was. I know today I did a workshop, we did a yoga workshop at Lilydale, and I think he was saying, one day you're going to be here doing a presentation.
Peacefulness, the big trees. I love trees.
The grounds are imbued with such wonderful healing vibration. Lilydale's 115 years old. And so just coming here on the grounds, they just are able to experience the peace and the tranquility and the beauty.
When you come here, I believe you find a peace that you can't find anywhere else. It's quite lovely. A peace, and sometimes you go back with special gifts that you weren't sure you had before, but were kind of laying back there.
Good evening, I'm Jan Warburton. Thank you for joining me. For the next half hour, we'll be looking at Lilydale, the world's largest spiritualist community. Located in western New York, Lilydale was founded in 1879 to provide a home for religious freethinkers.
From what we've been told, most visitors to Lilydale can expect a peaceful, tranquil experience. Others, however, are seeking something more than peace. They are seeking answers to questions that lie at the very heart of human existence. Questions relating to life, death, and a life beyond death.
Join me now for a glimpse at the people who can be found at Lilydale, both those who live there and those who come to be part of the spirit of Lilydale.
I'm here to heighten my heights however I may, and to just get centered and stay on my path with my own healing and enlightenment.
I'm still skeptical, to be honest. It's a lovely place, but I still am not convinced that there is a spiritual world in the type of world that they're describing.
I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was just a sort of a sizing up of people and coming up with a likely thing that is general enough that it kind of fits their life. And I don't know that I say it's complete bunk, but I'd say it's close to.
Chris is maintaining an open mind here. Okay. Do you think you might ever come back?
Oh, I like it here. I would come back. But to me it's entertainment. I don't know of it. I don't feel like a spirituality or anything to it.
Dennis Kludzinski reflected back on his first visit to Lilydale and how his experience with one of the many mediums there measured up to his expectations.
Yes, it was what I had expected, because the medium was saying things to me that made sense. There's no possible way she knew what that was. They were things involving work, future relationships, and so on, that were not just words, but they fit.
Pamela White and Cheryl Williams explain what a medium tries to do in a reading.
But in essence, what you hope is that what comes through is positive, it's uplifting, and it helps people on a spiritual, mental, and physical level. We went to a dinner, I was thinking while Cheryl was speaking, and this woman, this friend of ours said, would you do this quick reading for this woman who had never experienced anything before, and in the midst of this, we looked at her eyes and said, you need to have your eyes checked out. Pure and simple. Well, she went to the doctor.
Never mind, because I've just been to the
right. But just for the heck of it, she went back and they found that cataracts were starting. And they said that because of our being able to see that, she was able to have the attention to her eyes that she needed.
Because quite frankly, to give somebody, just lie, if they say, oh, am I going to ride off into the sunset with this man? It would be much easier for me to just say, oh, yes, that's right. And the person would walk out the door and be very happy. But if that's not what I see, I can't say that. And so it would be much easier to lie and give them, fraudulent information. But it's because truth is simple, but sometimes people just don't want to accept it.
Sometimes a reading may be difficult to accept, but sometimes it may bring understanding. Dennis tells what happened with a friend who was struggling with the suicide of someone close to him.
He was curious about, in terms of where he was going, in terms of his work, his life, and also a very dear friend of his who had died. The medium indicated that person was there in the room from the spirit world, right there alongside of her. She said, without any idea of what the circumstances were regarding his death, they had taken his life, and that he was fine, and that he found life difficult and troubling. And so his decision in taking his life was one that gave him a sense of freedom and peace. The message that this young man gave to the medium, to my friend, was for him to get on with his life, for him to stop worrying and being concerned about him, but to get on. And that was right on, because my friend was experiencing a great attachment, even though his friend's death had taken place, was still almost reliving everything. So his friend is saying in the spirit world, get on with your life. I'm fine, I'm finding where I am at peace. Get on with your life, move. That was the positive.
Not all mediums work the same. Sherry Lee Calkins explains what she does as she is about to give a reading.
Take my hand. And what we do is work with your human aura. You are a series of energy fields, and I see them. In fact, I teach classes on teaching people to see these energy fields. Everyone can learn to. It's like learning to play chopsticks on the piano, Almost everyone can learn to do it. But these energy fields that you are actually your mind, your emotions, your creative self, your spiritual energies, and you are your aura, after all.
Pamela and Cheryl talk about the process a little differently.
So if you're asking how we do this, we're getting back to your question, we go into an altered state of consciousness. Now, we've been tested at several different laboratories, and scientifically they've been able to map our brains and also check our electrical voltage and skin temperature and all kinds of things to verify that we are in altered states of consciousness. So they did that kind of after we found out that we could do this. And so, in fact, they would ask us, please don't go into that state. And they found out that just sitting here in normal waking consciousness, both of us, even though Pam says she has to plug in, she just has to feel that current. But both of us in normal waking consciousness, just kind of walking around in life, are tuned in.
Sherry Lee begins her readings by explaining what will be involved.
Thank you. Just remember that getting a reading from myself or from any medium or any psychic is like asking for a roadmap. That they'll set up the path they advise you to take, but it's your choice if that's the path you want to follow.
The exercise of choice and free will is very important.
We orchestrate our lives much more so than we think, so that being a victim is mostly an illusion. People who are in accidents don't have to be at that particular place at that particular second. They choose to be.
We come from the premise that we all have free will and we have free choice. And so spirit can project that information for you. And so we don't believe in predictions, we believe in projections. The only thing you can predict is weather. And so by projecting, spirit is able to give you basic cycles and basic patterns and a basic outlook. And so that's the reason why people come for consultations.
There has been no shortage of media treatment of the spirit world, which Pamela White sees as both bad and good.
You know, one of the great problems and challenges with the metaphysical field has been that the media has treated it so badly for so many years. All of the movies that are out, like The Exorcist
But even in the movie Ghost, I mean, Whoopi Goldberg's character wasn't, you know, I mean, she's a great actress, but her character, I mean, even bordered there on fraudulent work. So, you know, the media has dealt us kind of a bad hand. It's been a little hard.
However, in the movie Ghost, the scene where Patrick Swayze is shot and he comes back and sees his body lying there, that one scene has raised interest and consciousness in life after death all over the world, not just in this country, but all over the world. And it's really opened the door to the media to approach this subject in a very meaningful manner and in a very scientific and a very fair manner. For all, I mean, I'm, 57, and it's the first time I can remember this really happening. So it's been a very exciting time for us from that standpoint, too.
If you decide to have a reading, even out of nothing more than curiosity, one question people may have is how to protect yourself from the unscrupulous.
I think when anyone tells anyone something that's specific, be careful.
I would say my first clue would be if, you know, you're going up to a house with this huge palm in front. Right there I'd be worried. You know, I mean, that's a gypsy-like thing.
You mean like palm reader?
Yeah, like palm reader. I mean, that's a gypsy-like thing.
I thought you meant
there.
like palm tree.
No, palm tree. Out there in California, watch out. Okay. Okay, that's very funny. I never thought of that. All right, so
that's what happens when you're visual.
Hit the edit button again. Okay. So anyway, actually, what I would look to avoid would be any trappings that look, you know, kind of gypsy-like.
If somebody says for $1,200 I can remove a curse from you, back off.
I think you have to use your mind.
You have to use your own discernment.
But I have to say something. Here. A lot of people are out there looking to get their fortune told, and that always amazes me no end. There are a lot of people who come to Lilydale to get their fortune told, and my prayer is always, please do not come to my door.
And I say that to you because you began
Sherry Lee is now well into the reading we saw her begin earlier.
Yes. Coming down here about 3 months ago, do you see the gorgeous mint green?
Yes.
That's the color of optimism coming into your life. That's a color of focusing on what's working and making it work better, but not being so concerned about the things we may be failing at or that aren't going so well. This is called therapy green. And I'm going to say to you, going back about 3 months and for another 4, that's a mode you're largely in. You've decided to focus on the donut and not on the whole. You're focusing on what's working for you and for what you have and sort of ignoring the fact that you may lack something. But this does mean you're in a form of therapy, I have to say. All of us go through self-therapy when we're experiencing changes in our lives. And this for you is for the better, all right? Did you actually start doing some self-work about 3 months ago? Have you been focusing on being more optimistic and having a glass that's half full of water instead of half empty? Okay. Can I go back 3 months ago when you understand that there was a specific change that you decided to make and be more positive?
Oh,
yes.
There was.
You're going to find that in about 4 months, you could figure the week if you want to measure those 24 spaces and apply a month to each one. That in about 4 months, professionally for you, there's going to be a change. That what you're going to be into is a new systems of communication. And that's just about December and January as I'm looking forward. Are you expecting a promotion or a change at that time, please?
Not at the moment.
Will you remember we're saying so? Because what you do professionally at that time, which is take on more responsibility as a communicator, is what you've been aiming at since, I say, October of '89, what you've been studying to do, what you've been working toward. This will be the beginning. And as we move forward with you, it just naturally flows to very large amounts with you, so that overwhelmingly you become a communicator. And we carry that forward then until, well, what would that be? That would be probably 1197.
People are drawn to Lilydale for many reasons, but some are mentioned more frequently than others.
People who are there to provide clarity and hope and growth.
Sounds
to
like good things.
Individuals who are looking for that in their lives but have not found it in traditional religious churches.
From Pamela's perspective, the world of spirit is not as unfamiliar as some might think.
Tonight, on this television show, if we could reach out to the audience and say, how many of you have ever felt the presence of someone who's passed, have seen their presence, have dreamt about them, which was probably an out-of-body experience where they were really, talking to the person, I will guarantee you that 50% of your viewing audience tonight would say, I have had an experience of being in contact with somebody who's passed.
This may be true, but it is nothing new. Why is it then that books about communing with spirits are now bestsellers, and mainstream news magazines run cover stories on angels? Are people dissatisfied with what used to be sufficient?
I was Roman Catholic, so the Roman Catholic perspective didn't help me too much. So a couple of years ago, I came down to Lilydale for my first time, and as I, grew from that first experience, I realized maybe there's answers here for me. So it just keeps accumulating. There's more questions, and yet the answers are coming this time.
I think the organized and institutional religions do a wonderful job in helping people to come to an awareness of the God that is within and around us. An organized religion certainly does a marvelous job in fostering traditions of faith. But one of the things that I become concerned with is the fact that religion and spirituality are certainly very, very different. And we can become religious persons, or say we're religious persons, but are we spirit-filled individuals? And there's a great difference there. And so I believe that it wasn't offering me the answers or the vehicles to get me to where I knew I wanted to be or hoped to be, which is a closer relationship between the God within me. And so Lilydale surfaces as another opportunity or means to helping me make some connections in my own journey or path. These are assistants, these are aids, these are helping mates to me along the way to get me to understand a little bit more and to grow more in my own spiritual life.
And what about the possible conflict between an interest in the spirit world and more traditional religion?
It doesn't call into question my faith as a Catholic, a Christian. It really enhances it more. Because if I'm truly about the business of growing spiritually, then how can I say that my own organized religion is going to offer me everything I wanted to know? It doesn't.
We don't say this is the only truth there is. Everybody has their own truth, and we honor that. We absolutely honor that. We feel, though, that we don't believe in converting people. As a matter of fact, that was a good question. Because when I started out first in the work, I tried to make everybody in the world, know the truth, And I learned as time went on. Know my truth, yes. So yes, I lost all of my religious friends.
That's right.
I lost half my family, And so the last thing really we want to do is convert. We're out here to enhance those people who want to know more and who are open to know more. If somebody who has their own religious affiliation, that's fine.
I believe in angels. You know, as a traditional Catholic, we always maintain everyone has a guardian angel. And that guardian angel stays with you to guide you and to be your protector.
It's certainly a comforting thought to think that you're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think the spirits that are there, as you mentioned, could very possibly be those guardian angels. The spirits that we find in our home, perhaps, could be that. I think the angels and the spirits are the same.
Part of the spirit of Lilydale is acceptance, an acceptance that we are all pretty much the same, and that many different paths may still lead to the same destination. Drew points that out in his advice.
Right. Not to shut the door, and if they don't believe it, that's fine. However, to chastise something just because it may be wrong for you doesn't mean it's wrong for everyone else.
But what about looking into the future? Are we venturing where we should not go?
We know that, that God knows all things. And to say that your question is, how can other people know, isn't that assuming too much of a loftiness on a human level? I believe that God has given us all gifts. And I believe that God, who is ultimately in charge of it all, gives his creation the opportunity to grow and to know, but in ways that not everyone is able at a certain point. I believe that's where gifts are concerned. I think that people who have these gifts of being able to sense what the spirits are doing or saying or asking is a real gift. And it's different than looking into a crystal ball, but it's an intuition. It's having a sense of, and a feeling of a sense, an intuition, and a knowingness that this is happening around us, and I am able to see, where other people may not be able to see or understand. This person is able to see and understand. I believe that all good gifts are given by God. And if we use our gifts in an appropriate and loving way, they're going to bear the fruit, and they're going to touch people's lives in a healthy, wonderful sense.
Dennis, who for years had been a Roman Catholic priest in an Erie parish, reflects on how religion, spiritualism, and spirituality relate from his perspective.
One of the issues that continues to be so much in my mind is where institutional churches are today in their efforts to promote religion. And I say religion and not spirituality. I'm not saying that it doesn't take place, but I believe that spirituality is of the essence and the foundation of our Christian faith. There seems to be more of an effort among all organized religions today to perpetuate the institution. As the institution grows, obviously, laws and regulations to keep things in order and balance. But we sometimes and oftentimes lose sight of the spirit. And that's where we are when Lilydale comes up and other places come up, is that whenever, and I think it's all God-centered, and it's all under the direction of God. Because in spite of all the wonderful things that organized religions do, we said, as I said before, God is still in control. And if they're not doing their job, which oftentimes they haven't, there's other avenues that open up.
Yes.
And it's a way, I think, of God saying, this may not be the traditional road, but it will be of great assistance in your path. So I believe we cannot close ourselves off as members of any organized religion to think that it's the all and be all, because it isn't. God doesn't operate in that confinement. He operates in the lily dale. He'll operate in this area,
in a
that
Buddhist
area,
temple,
in a Buddhist temple,
as well as in a Catholic church.
Absolutely.
Or a Methodist church.
Absolutely. And for the individual who is actively in search, honestly in search for truth, she will find them in those areas. And it will be right. They will know it's right for them. So I believe that it's almost a summons and a real mission for us to look beyond where we are and to be open and not judgmental of those other areas and other places that can offer us growth. Not to close them off because of what we're taught, it's wrong or whatever. I think we need, and the church also needs to have people learn to trust themselves, to trust their hearts, because that's where God touches us, in our heart.
We hope this program has answered some questions, although it may well have raised many more. Could there be something to this communicating with the spirits? Can we reach beyond the life and world we see in front of us? Are there beings not of this world who can speak to us? The skeptic in us says no. But some things are not easy to explain, at least by ordinary means.
Many of us may be looking for an answer, but perhaps we're looking in the wrong place. Maybe the answer, if there is one, lies not in the spirit world, not in Lilydale, but can be found much closer to home. Perhaps the answer lies within ourselves. Thank you for joining me. I'm Jan Warburton. Good night.
Partial funding for this program has been provided by a Pennsylvania Legislative Initiative grant.